This is Megan Sneeman, and she is kind of a blending wizard. She's done a lot of reading on it, and so it's going to be really fun. So first of all, just so you know, there is glasses with water. You can try, like, there's grapefruit and lemon or wild orange if you want to put some in your glass and just stir it with a little stir stick. Those are little banana, apple, cinnamon muffins with cinnamon doTERRA oil. To try.
Yum.
And yeah, so I'm going to give her the time and we'll go from there.
Yay,
So
thanks,
Meg.
Thanks. Okay, I want to start with a question. Does it matter in what order we put oils into a blend? What do you think?
Yes.
You think it does?
Yes.
But I
It
don't
does.
know why.
It does actually matter. Because it affects the how those oils work together, their therapeutic benefits, and how they interact with one another. So actually, not only the amount of oil you use in a blend matters, but how you actually put them into the blend, the order in which you put them in. So I just want to hand out these little handouts that I made for y'all. If you want to take one and pass on, that's got your information in with regards to blending. Just very top line, essential oil basics. But I must say, this book is phenomenal. Who has this book? Yeah, on page. I've actually tagged it because I refer to it so often. On page 30, it talks all about blending and the art of science of blending. So it's a really, really great book to have. So when we talk about blending oils, we obviously all have our individual oils from doTERRA. Well, do we? Does everyone have oils here from doTERRA?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay, so on that note, just before we get going into it, today is kind of fun because if you have a wholesale account and you want to get your LRP set up, if you activate your LRP today, which whoever enrolled you will be able to explain more about that, but you'll be able to get a free blend of your choice today. We can make a free blend for you, and that's really cool to have. If you don't have the doTERRA oils yet, if you do decide to enroll and you want the oils today as well, you're going to get a free blend to take home. So that's kind of nice to use. So with the doTERRA oils, we all know that we've got our individual oils. And then doTERRA makes some blends themselves for us. They've got a team of scientists and doctors behind them that come up with these blends to use for specific ailments. So they take a lot of the work out for us. But there are times when we need something specific, or we just need something a little bit extra to help with, for example, whether it's a throat infection that the children have, or whether you've had sunburn and you feel you need a great blend just to help with sunburned skin for cooling, but also for relief and healing. Whether you want to rid your house of dust mites and you need a nice all-natural, no chemical spray, there's so many ways we can use these oils. So when it comes to blending, it's a bit of an art and a science, and I think people can get bogged down with doing it right, but the most important thing for you to remember when you're blending is to trust your nose as well, because you want to create a blend that is going to smell good to you when you use it as well. So it's so important for you to play around and just trust your nose. But to start with, are these the rest of them? Thanks, Britt. So what we're going to go through is the order that you put oils into a blend. So it matters, not only the order, but the amount of oil. Blends are split into oils are split into 4 different classifications. You get the personifier, which is the oil that you put first into a blend. You get the equalizer, the enhancer, which comes second, the equalizer, which comes third, and the modifier, which is fourth. Now, every single oil in the book, or every single oil we have, is put into one of these classifications. So you will find that your oil is either one of these classifications, or it can double up, triple up. Sometimes rose, for example, can qualify as any one of these. So, and we'll get onto, well, how do we know which classification we use for an oil? So your personifier is the first oil you put into a blend. So in making a blend in a little roller bottle, you'll add your essential oils first, and then you add your carrier oil to dilute it, your fractionated coconut oil. So the first oil you put into a blend is your personifier, and that is 1 to 5% of a blend. So if we're looking, for example, at a 10 ml roller bottle, for adults, you're usually going to work on 20 essential oil drops in a 10 ml roller bottle. So if your personifier is 1 to 5% of that blend, you're literally looking at 1 to 2 drops of that essential oil, that personifier. Personifiers are really, they've got a very strong smell to them. Things like peppermint, clove, cinnamon, wild orange is even a personifier. So those are those oils, they really have got a strong scent, and those go first into your blend. The second oil you add into your blend is the enhancer, and that is the bulk of your blend. So when you're using a blend specifically for sleep, for example, you're going to look at an oil that is an enhancer, classified as enhancer, and its main property is to help with calming and relaxing, and that's how you're going to choose that as your enhancer, and that is 50 to 80% of your blend. So when we're looking at 20 essential oil drops, we're looking at 10 to 16 drops of your enhancer. Sometimes you can get 2 oils that are both enhancers, and you want to use them both equally in a blend as an enhancer. So you could put 8 and 8 drops of each, and those together would form your enhancer in that blend. The third classification is the equalizer, and that just creates balance and synergy among those oils in your blend. The fragrance isn't as sharp as your personifier, and it's 10 to 15% of your blend. So we're looking at 2 to 4 drops of the equalizer in a blend. And then lastly is the modifier that just brings harmony to the blend, and it's amazing when you're making your blends. As you go, I would encourage you to smell them. So you put your personifier in, put your enhancer in, give it a smell. Put your equalizer in and smell it. And when you add your modifier in, it's amazing how that whole blend just comes together, and it's topped off so beautifully. That modifier is 5 to 8%. So again, about 2 drops of your 20 drop blend. So that's just a basic on how to blend your essential oils. We'll come back to the tips now, but if you turn over to the second page. Are there any questions about that first? No. So if you turn over into your second page, which looks like this, what I've done is, because most of us will have the top 10 oils, I've got your top 6 oils which come in your top 10 oil pack, the single oils, and I've put their classifications down there, what they are classified as, and the order in which they're listed is what they would most probably be used as. So for example, your lavender is firstly an enhancer, secondly a modifier, and thirdly an equalizer. You can use it as any of those classifications in a blend, and how you put lavender into a blend will be directed by what you want from that blend. Lavender, its main constituent is to help with anxiety. So it helps with calming the mind. So if you want a blend that is all about emotions and calming the mind, lavender is 100% going to be your enhancer. However, if you want a blend perhaps for sunburn, and you just want lavender's constituent as an analgesic, because one of its constituents is analgesic, then you might consider it more as your modifier or your equalizer, because your main oil in that blend might be frankincense, which is all about healing the skin. Does that make sense? So that's how you would choose which oil, what sort of classification you want to put to that oil in your blend. So it's really, blending isn't, let me just put a few drops in this bottle and roll with it, you know. Actually, mind the pun, a lot of thought goes into it. And I think you can do that, and you'll see people who put information, or put 5 drops of this in a blend. But if you really want the therapeutic benefit that is your main objective of that blend, then bearing this in mind is so important. I've put some additional oils down under there, and the reason I've chosen those oils is because I've given you some blend recipes on your last page which talk to those oils. But in this book, in every single oil in this book, it tells you what it's classified as. So at the end of each oil, for example, if you look at juniper berry, it tells you the blend classification is an equalizer. It tells you what it blends well with. And then it talks about the perfume side of it as well, which we're not even tapping into today. But yeah, the great thing about this book is that at the end of each oil, it tells you what it's classified as. But this is just a bit of a quick guide. So we've talked about blending for the therapeutic benefits of oils. There is another side of it where you blend simply for the perfume and the aroma. And what you'll see in that last column there is I've put note. So you get oils which are either a base note, a middle note, or a top note. So the oils also fall into those categories, but that's specifically for blending perfumes. So that's all about the scent and the fragrance. Okay, so
The base goes in first.
yeah, your base goes in first, and then your middle note, and then your top note. So in this same book, on page 30, when it talks about blending, the very next page it talks about blending for perfumes, and it talks you through your notes as well and how you would do that. But sometimes, for example, I've used it once or twice when I'm making a blend for therapeutic benefit, and I'm just not sure of which oil to put where. I'll refer then to what note it is, and that can sometimes make that decision for me, whether it's a base note or whether it's a top note. Then that kind of makes my decision for me as to where to put it in the blend.
Does the base note go in first then?
Yeah. So that's the thing is I think blending, yes, it's an art and a science, but it's fun, and so much of it is it comes down to what you feel comfortable with and what makes sense for you as well. So this is simply a guideline to help you make therapeutic blends that are going to be really beneficial and going to work how you want them to work, and so you get your desired result. If we go back to the front page, there are just some tips I want to chat through when we talk about blending. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so we'll go through the tips and then we'll talk dilution. In terms of we talked about the classifications. Another hint about how to blend, how to know what oils to blend with what oils. Generally, oils of the same botanical family, whether they are flowers or herbaceous, they blend really well together. So that's just an extra tip. Trust your nose, like I said in the beginning. Always store your blend in dark bottles. Why? Does anyone know why?
Light impacts them. They
Yes.
degrade in light.
So, and it's actually, they're different. I've done a bit of research on this as well, because you'll see some people put their blends in clear bottles. A lot of oils can be impacted by UV light. So not light inside a house where it's just light as opposed to dark at night, but actual light from the sun. So if you left your oil blend in a clear glass bottle in the sunlight, that's not a great idea, because it can degrade those oils. So it's always just a good idea to put them in your dark bottles, whether it's amber or cobalt blue. Those are great colors to go for. Some people who put their oils in clear bottles, they just make sure they're always keeping them away from UV light, but just for general safety, I put them in dark bottles. Some oils, like your citrus oils that are colored, so citrus oils like grapefruit, wild orange, tangerine, as well as oils that have a blue color like Balance, deep blue, blue tansy. Those oils are affected more by light than other oils. So just something to always bear in mind. Even when you're storing your oils in their bottles, wherever you put them, keep them in a place where they're not going to be in direct sunlight. I also wouldn't generally leave my oils in the car, where direct sunlight can get to them. So that's just a tip on the type of bottles to use. Then what carrier oils would you use for a blend? There are loads of carrier oils, fractionated coconut oil, jojoba, argan. There are lots of different oils. And it's generally a great way to think about it is if you're making a blend in a roller bottle that you're going to just store in a roller bottle for an extended period of time, it's always great to use your fractionated coconut oil. The reason is fractionated coconut oil molecules are really stable. They're not highly energized. They don't move around. They don't interact a lot with your essential oil molecules. But something like a jojoba oil or an argan oil, those molecules are much bigger and they've got a lot more energy than fractionated coconut oil. So you wouldn't want to store them for a long time with your essential oil because they can interact with those essential oil molecules. If, however, you wanted to use a jojoba oil because it's wonderful for skin and you want to make a blend specifically for skin, I would always recommend doing that at time of application. So it's a little bit more tricky, but what you could do is put your essential oil blend in a little dropper bottle. So you have your 20 drops of essential oil blend all made up already. Then you'll put your jojoba oil in your hand, a few drops of that, take some drops of your essential oil blend, add it to that, and then apply it to your skin or wherever you need it. But yeah, so that's just a tip on your oils to use. And then once you've made a blend, and even for any sort of citrus oils, if you apply them to your skin, you need to avoid sunlight after on that area after you've applied it, because all the citrus oils are photosensitive. So if you make up a blend, it's important to remember as well, if you make up a blend that's got a citrus oil in, you want to avoid the sun in that area for up to 12 hours on things like ginger, lemon, lime, orange, citrus bliss, which is a blend, elevation. And then for something like bergamot, you want to avoid the sun for up to 72 hours after you've put that in a blend. So if you're worried and you've got a citrus oil in a blend, instead of putting it somewhere where the sun's going to get you, put it in a spot where you know is going to be hidden. So if you're wearing long sleeves on your wrists, and cover your wrists, or that kind of idea. On the bottom of your feet is always a great spot. So that's it in a nutshell. Let's chat. Does anyone have questions on that before we talk about dilution? Yeah.
Yeah, the photosensitivity, is that on skin? Will your skin turn darker or lighter, or what happens?
It can burn.
Or it can burn.
Yeah.
So you'll just get a sunburn.
Yeah.
It's like putting like tanning oil on and then going and lying in the sun, and it can really sort of increase the effects of the UV ray on your skin.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can burn. Then dilution. I've worked on a 10 ml roller bottle, because most of the time when you make up your blends, you're going to be using a 10 ml bottle, which is this size. And if you're using a bigger bottle or a smaller bottle, just divide it accordingly. So in general for babies, we're looking at a 0.5 to 1% dilution ratio, which means in a 10 ml bottle, you're going to use 1 to 2 essential oil drops. It sounds ridiculous. You're like, that is so little. But the amazing thing about it, when we blend essential oils, it doesn't reduce the efficacy of how that oil works. What it reduces is the rate of absorption. So for people with sensitive skin or babies, whether you're putting 1 or 10 drops of oil in there, you're going to get the same effect. But with 10 drops, if you've got a baby with very sensitive skin, they might react to it. So dilution isn't reducing your efficacy, and always remember that essential oils are potent, and we literally, a lot of the time, we just need a couple of drops. So that's for babies. For children from 1 to 8 years old, or elderly, or people with really sensitive skin, you want to look at a 1 to 2% dilution. So 2 to 4 drops of essential oils in a 10 ml roller, topped with your fractionated coconut oil. Kids over 8 years, a 2% dilution, so you're looking at 4 drops. And then adults is a 5 to 10% dilution, where you're looking at 10 to 20 drops of essential oil topped with your coconut oil. It's also, it's a very personal decision as well. When I make a blend, for example, I made a blend of Digestin for stomach discomfort topped with the coconut oil, and I put my 20 drops in and I filled the rest with coconut oil. I use that on my children as well. I've used it for a while. I've found that it works really well for them. They don't complain of any sort of skin sensitivity to it. So for me, I'm happy to do that. For people starting out, or with newborn babies specifically, you want to follow that dilution ratio and take it as you go. But it's such a personal preference, and just figuring things out, I guess, as you go along.
So you said you put your drops in first and then the fractionated coconut oil.
Yes.
Does that matter?
I've tried to get some solid answers to that. Most people and doctors that I follow have said always just put your essential oil first and then your coconut oil. Because also, if you're adding it into a 10 ml roller bottle, if you don't really know how far to put your coconut oil in. But anyway, you're making that essential oil blend first, and that's what's important. If you put the coconut oil in first, as you drop the essential oil in, it's mixing with that coconut oil. Okay. So you want to try and make that essential oil blend first, and then top it up with your coconut oil. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions?
Is there any oils that you should never put together?
It's a great question. And I've been asked that before, and I've looked into it, and the answer is no. So there's nothing that cancels it out or negatively affects the workings of one essential oil, no. And the great thing is, if you've got your top 10 oils, right, this is another thing I wanted to talk about, is you've got 4 blends in your top 10 oils. You've got On Guard, Digestin, Breathe, and Deep Blue. Now those oils, when you're going to put them on topically, you need to dilute them. So a great way to have them easy to use on yourself or on your children is to buy your roller bottles and create blends of each of those four blends themselves. And all it is 20 drops of your On Guard or 20 drops of your Deep Blue, and you top that up with your coconut oil, and then you've got a really easy on-the-go way to apply it. So that's, yeah.
Right. Earlier you said it didn't matter, like with the babies, it didn't dilute the efficacy of how the oil worked. But so my question would be on adults, where we could do a 5% or we could do a 10%. Obviously, they're both not equal in terms of how much you're getting. How do you decide what percent you want?
It's a good question, Jane, and I don't know if there's a real answer to it. I think most of the time, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Skin sensitivity.
Yeah. If you've got a particularly sensitive skin, like my mom has, so I know that when I make up a blend for her, I'm going to err on the 5% dilution ratio for her. But me,
I almost
Just chemical use.
I must have tough skin or something.
But I'm just wondering, if we know that a small amount goes a long way.
yeah, why would you use more?
Yeah, that's part of my question, because I know, like I've heard before, some of the percent, like if you're doing a stronger amount, it's for a limited time. Like say you're getting a cold, and so you put on your 10, 15, 20%, and you're like, but it's only for that week. You're not doing it for your
Long-term.
entire life,
Yeah.
versus you're using grapefruit to
That's
try
the
to get rid of
practice.
fat on the sides, and you're using it every single day. Then maybe that was only a 5% because it's a more frequent application. So I was just wondering.
That's actually a very good point, and you reminded me of that. So 100%, if you're going to use something very short term and you want to make a strong blend for something, then yeah, you could go on the higher percentage dilution and use it short term. But for something that's going to be daily use, then it's probably you can err on the side of the lesser dilution. Yeah.
There is the thing that if you wanted to get like Digesten in a roller bottle and you didn't want to have to mix it and buy the roller bottle, do it yourself, doTERRA already has them made, and they are lower in price. But most people start with the pure oils, and so it's nice to be able to know that you can blend them and make things up. But as you move on, doTERRA hasn't done. So when you go into your LRP and you want Digesten roller, just click on it and it's ready to go. They've already done it for you.
I've tried to find out what the dilution is on the doTERRA rollers.
So
They won't tell
They
you.
won't tell you.
They won't tell you.
Yeah, we don't know. So, so I guess when you're making up your own, you've just got to kind of be guided by what you're using it for, how long you want to use it for, and who it's going to be applied on. Yeah.
But isn't it also that some people are, more sensitive even for smells, so they don't like
Yes.
it to be too strong, and some people need more to have the effect.
Yeah,
I think that's also when you decide
yeah,
absolutely
definitely.
which ratio you're going to go for.
Yeah.
And if you find out that you don't even react on pure oils, why
It's
would you not do it?
You can. It's about
Not all of them, though.
some of it. Actually,
Like
no
oregano.
oregano. No.
Yeah, which one not? How would you?
Oregano.
Oregano.
Which
For
one?
example, the Digesten, I've even used pure on
Me too.
my daughter,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I don't know why not.
Yeah.
She's not breaking out.
So one thing about dilution and using oils neat, if you use an oil neat, so you haven't diluted it, it gives more of a systemic effect in your body. So that oil travels around the whole body very quickly. Those molecules are really tiny. So for example, at night, if you put On Guard on your kid's feet, it's going to give a whole systemic effect on their body. But if you want more of a localized effect, so you've got a sore knee or a sore shoulder, and you diluting it is going to keep that oil in that spot for longer, as opposed to spreading it out in the body. So if you make your Deep Blue roller blend, then you know that if you're putting it on the shoulder or the elbow, it's going to stay in that area for longer, as opposed to just Deep Blue. You wouldn't use neat anyway. But does that make sense?
You can't really overdose, right?
No. I mean,
You've
You
got
can.
I guess you could.
if you take
can.
it eternally,
Yeah.
and also and things most
To the level
issues.
of toxicity. I mean,
Yeah, most issues that come with like, what is it called when they get complaints or they've got people react to something is either they've used an oil and they haven't diluted it, like an oregano, or they take way too much internally. And it all comes down to usage.
Yeah, and I also
Yeah.
understood that if you take things for a long period of time, you could kind of build up an intolerance. So that I read quite some stories about people who were using things and they were fine in the beginning, but over time they kind of build up an intolerance.
From
Was
what
it
Dr.
problem?
Hill said, that is an actual with plant-based.
Yeah, he was saying, because that was a question that came up. Dr. Hill is one of the founders of doTERRA, and he was basically saying that there's no strict evidence showing that people build up resistance to essential oils like you can to medication. However, you might be using an essential oil for something, and in the beginning you notice, whoa, what a difference. So let's use an example, sleep or calming the mind before bedtime. And you start using your lavender and you notice a huge difference in it. And over time you start thinking, hey, I'm not noticing as much a difference. What he's saying is that essential oil works when it initially works, you notice such a big difference because there was a vast difference from not having it to now having it. And over time, as you use it, your body itself as well is managing that calming state and getting to sleep better with the help of the essential oil. So for you, the difference you're noticing is not as a huge contrast, but it's still benefiting you. And what I love about the oils as well is changing things up. There's so many oils that can be used for the same issue. Sleep, for example, you've got lavender, vetiver, cedarwood, frankincense, serenity, which is a blend already. So you've just off the top of my head, there are 5 oils there which are wonderful for sleep. So if you've started with the lavender and you've noticed a difference, change things up after that. Try a bit of vetiver, try a bit of cedarwood. And I think it's always fun to ring the changes because you'll also see which oils really have an impact. Like with my kids, I noticed Serenity works a charm on the one and Peace, which is another blend, works brilliantly on the other. So it's, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Well, I sort of meant it the other way around. Not that you get tolerant, but intolerant. So I heard a lot of people who were using things topically, which were fine for a while, but after months they started to get rashes and stuff.
Oh,
So
whoa.
they, and that's another reason why aromatherapists suggested to change after a while. So if you would use lavender for calming down, do it for a certain amount of time, and then change to another one if they have the same effect, because you may be able to sort of. And it has to do with the like dilution as well. If you take too high, if you take too much for a longer period of time, apparently you get
I'd heard of
get
that.
some problems.
If the dilution is it's too strong,
Yeah.
that at first it can seem okay, and then as time goes on, it's too much for the system to where they can actually completely reject that oil. Like they can't use that oil anymore. So that's why I'm always, erring more on the cautious side with different things because, I don't want to cause problems.
Especially for
And you
sleep,
can switch
you
spots
tend
of
to
where
use
you
the
put
same
it on,
thing every
too.
night.
But
Yeah,
because
but
it
once
goes
it
through
gets
your
into
whole
your
body.
system,
True,
Like,
but I think about skin sensitivity too, though. I mean, you can put it here, 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 here. You have lots of
But
places.
the
but
the
I think
skin
with
is just
skin-
one organ. So if you break out here, it doesn't matter if you put it somewhere else. Probably you'll have
Dr.
the same effect.
Dr. Z is actually launching a book now, which I saw. I'm super excited to get. And in that, he talks about this. And he talks about where resistance to essential oils. Is that a thing? Isn't it? And he talks about that. So I'm super excited to get that and learn more because I've also looked into it, but I haven't got anything solid and concrete. So that'll be really good coming from someone who's got a bit of clout in the industry.
And he usually will say only 10 drops, which is a 5%. That's usually his max that he recommends for adults.
This one actually came off of I put together Dr. Z and Dr. X's.
Because Dr. Axe will say 10%. Dr. C goes with 5.
So that's why I wanted to say 5 to 10 because both of them, there's merit in both. I've done both. So it's always nice for you to at least have a ratio to work in, I think.
I had a question. When you said that if you put, I didn't know this, if you put the oil on neat, that it's systemic versus diluted, it stays more in one spot. So but I'd heard that if you put it on your feet, it is more systemic. Is that true?
If you put it diluted on your feet, it's going to be a much slower rate of absorption.
Okay.
So because the molecules are so small, even if you're putting it just on your elbow, it is going to eventually reach a systemic effect. But because you've diluted it, it's going to stay in that area for so much longer. Same with the feet. So if you're going to put a diluted On Guard on the feet, it's just going to absorb a lot more slowly into the whole system. And that's why dilution is important with kids as well, because it's giving them a slow effect as opposed to boom. Yeah. Does that make sense? Cool. So if there are any other questions, or if you have questions as we go, just shout. But on the back page, now's the fun part. I've got some roller bottle blend recipes and some sprays. So there are 4 spray recipes right at the bottom. The one is a pillow spray to just help with calming before bedtime. There's a spray to clean your diffusers, which is a really great one, and it's such a good idea to do once a week, is clean your diffuser. There's a hand sanitizer spray and then a dust mite spray. So every time you change the linen on the bed, you can spray your mattress with it. It's a really great one. And then the roller bottle blends, there are a whole lot of emotional blends, and then there are some blends for physical discomfort, and just some additional ideas over what we have in the blends from doTERRA itself. You'll see that within these blends, some of them use majority of the top 10 oils. There might be one extra oil that you need to complete that blend. So when we make the blends today, I'm sure if there's an oil you're missing, your leader can help you out with that. And if you don't have any roller bottles with you today to make blends, we do have roller bottles available. They're £3 each for a bottle, so you can use that to make up your blend. If you want to make one of the sprays, there's either a 15ml or a 30ml bottle, and those are £4 and £5 respectively for those bottles. So, yeah.
That's it.
Let's blend.